Hello and welcome to Testimony Tuesday. I'm your host, Charles Gates Jr. This week on our program, we have as our return guest, Jim Schoffstall. And he has a testimony to share about trusting God. So stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Charles Gates Jr., with my guest, Jim Schoffstall. Um, Jim, where does this testimony begin?
It was a time where I had answered the call and stepped up as a youth leader, and it was my it was a very just took a step of faith type of time in my life, and was really the point of this is the message in this is trusting in God. During this time, I was really, you know, it was something I struggled with, but to step into the role, I was really trusting God and really leaning on Him during that time to really be carrying me through the beginning stages of what I was doing as a youth leader. So what was going on at the time was a lot, and it was beautiful. In our area, we had like at least in our church at the time, there was a nice little outbreak in the best way of reaching out in foster care. A lot of the families felt led by the Lord to really be taking in those who have had it rough, that were maybe don't have a permanent home, they don't have any semblance of really family really growing up. They just go from place to place a lot, and a lot of the um, lives that were brought in by these families of the church were the lives were difficult, and also, like, we're talking about, like, some of them were some of the lives, some of the children were super young, um, like, not toddler, but they were younger. They were in kids church and stuff like that, and some of them were in teenagers and in youth group. And what you found was, uh, and I don't want to categorize them as some separate sect of society. They're human beings. They're
Right.
people, and so don't hear that. If I don't know how to word it, that's just Jim. That's just me not knowing how to say things properly, and words are hard. Uh, but but during this time, I was really I just had a passion to reach the youth, and those boundaries didn't matter. That somebody had grown up in foster care. It's just like, you're here, you're a part of our church family. You're a part of our family,
Right.
regardless of what family you did or didn't have in the past.
Exactly. That's the way it ought to be.
Yes,
Where those who you fellowship with in the body are your church family,
absolutely.
and this are we're going to be spending eternity together.
Yep.
Like we're a chip family, like even like our own immediate family. Like uh, so.
Yeah, and during that, what I found was the the messages that I was saying, that I would speak about the love of God, and what was going on was, see, during if you were brought up, and I'm sorry if you were, and you were if you were brought up and you had a hard time connecting with people, or you had betrayal early on in your life, or you had any sort of struggle, be it very deep or slight, just a struggle's a struggle. There's no in between there. But if you were brought up and you had struggles early on in your life, there's a wall that goes up. There's a wall. There's, depending, varying thickness of these walls that you put up. And when you're hearing a message, take this even out of just church. If you're hearing a message of motivation, if you're hearing a message of just loving one another, period, just being nice to people, a happy message, period, it most of the time doesn't land. It doesn't really connect with somebody who has that wall up. And I've been there outside when I had my time away from church and everything. But when I had my struggles, if somebody came up to me during that time and they let me share God's love with you, or not, if they were that aggressive like that directly, I really would have shut them down. But even if you present it well, it didn't matter to me.
Yeah, exactly. When we put those walls up, we do it instinctively based on the thing. Our past hurts, we feel to get hurt again.
Yeah.
We feel like it's a fortress that protects us from getting hurt again.
Yeah.
But really, what it does is it hinders us from hearing God, because it hardens our hearts.
Yeah.
And it keeps us away from anyone coming in to show their love.
Yeah.
When I came to Christ, he had to tear that wall down.
Yeah.
And keep it down multiple times. And
it's tough.
Struggle.
It's tough, and it's also tough to see that in somebody else, and you want to tell them that you've been through it, and you want to tell them that I've been there where I didn't let love in, where my heart was frozen. It wasn't just cold; it was frozen. It was, and what I was seeing was I hadn't been through that yet. I haven't really had a wall up yet. I was young, and it was something where I had just graduated not that long ago, lived a couple years outside of high school, took some college course, lived in the world a little bit, but it wasn't something where I had a wall up or anything like that. But I was seeing something that the Lord was teaching me through this in the message that of his love that I wanted to speak to anybody, but specifically when I was a youth leader here. And what I had to do was, it was a Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 moment, I like to say. And what Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says, and this is the King James Version, because I love the King James Version of this particular verse.
So Proverbs chapter 3, verses
Proverbs
5,
chapter 3,
5.
5, and 6.
Oh, 5. Okay.
Proverbs chapter 3, 5, and 6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths." And the reason why that was so important was I was trying to understand at that time something that I couldn't on my own, without God's help. I was just trying to understand things. It's just like, I'm trying to show you love, and you're, and I could see it's falling on deaf ears, because those walls are up. They've had hard lives, regardless if, they were in foster care or not. But it was something that I know when I was speaking, I could tell. When you're speaking, you can tell that somebody's just not, like, they don't have their phone out or anything, but like they look like they have their phone out. It's just like, okay, you got 15 more minutes and then we're done. It's just like they're not hearing a word you're saying. And but it was something that I was starting to take a little personal, that I was just like, what's wrong with my delivery? What's wrong with what I'm doing? I'm trying to place this on me for some reason. Well, being young in ministry at that time, I was like, well, what's wrong with me? What do I need to, go about this and doing it? And partially that's a healthy way to look at it, if you do it the right way, if you're looking at it that way.
I do feel like the Lord tests each of us in that area.
Yeah.
When we first start stepping out in ministry, I know I've had those moments.
Yeah. But it was during that time that the Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 hit me, where I was trying to direct my own path and understanding it.
Right.
And what I needed to do was give it to God. What I needed to do was just like, God, here's this mess that I'm trying to handle on my own and understand on my own. I need you to take this and walk with me in this. And show me that this isn't a mess, that this is something beautiful, and it can be transformed and given out and be something that furthers his kingdom and shows his love in the realest way to those who haven't seen love really at all. It was just something that it opened up my eyes in the best way uh, during that time, because it was something that, people have had really really tough times, and that's not even there aren't words for what some people like, to grow up and not have any identification of a family, to have no concept of that. And when you say something like you're a part of the church family, again, you're speaking, a different language. You're speaking, excuse me, you're speaking to somebody who has no concept of that.
Right. That's just
So,
like I. This is pretty a common perception within.
for some people, yeah.
Well, common perception for those who grew up fatherless, like I have.
Sure.
Like they have they view God a certain way because based on what they've experienced with their own father, they think like in my life, my father wasn't there throughout my youth, and I felt like God did abandon me because I felt like my father did, and so I see a relation between with these kids and their family struggling with understanding how could this family take me and love me when my family abandoned me,
Right.
or and this the love of Christ that really breaks down that wall,
Yes.
and love really
Yeah.
breaks down that barrier.
Yep. Yeah.
And time.
Yeah.
Time.
Yeah. And trying to do that on your own, which most of the time is what some people do at first, because they want to initialize. It's like, I don't, I just want to get better, no matter what the situation is, whether it's a struggle with family, whether it's, with addiction or with anything, just like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in this struggle. And you initialize that, and you want to, and you want, and during that, you're not thinking, there's probably a lot of people around me that have been through the same thing. Even if there is, you're not thinking that. You're not like, hey, have you been through this? Like, or anything. You're not like that at all. You don't want to, burden, because sometimes that's what you'll feel like. You'll feel like when you're going through something, you don't want to be that person that's just like, man, I don't want to bring you down, but let me tell you about my depressing story. Like at that moment, it's just like the way you're looking at it, and to the thing is, your depressing story might be an open door for somebody that's going through the very same thing, and maybe that's why you went through it, because you were destined to reach out to people and share God's love, and maybe that's that specific angle that you've been through a lot, and you see this person down the line further on in your life that God had predestined you to reach out to and to love on and show his love to. And it doesn't have to be something that you understand. It could just be something where you're venting and that person's like, oh my gosh, we are brother and sister, or we are brother and brother. It's like, oh my gosh, you understand me so well. It's just, but from your perspective, it's like, yes, but all I was doing was telling you my story. And I never really thought that all of that pain was going to be worth all of this. A lot of times when you're going through the pain, you're not thinking of that. You're just thinking of getting out of it. So
Yeah.
leaning on God, not trying to understand it ourselves, and give your situation to God. He's going to get you through it. He's going to get you through it. And you're going to be able to share God's love through it. No matter what. You got to trust in him.
So did any of those children ever come around after?
Oh, I'm still in contact with a lot of them.
Okay.
And especially, I'm still in contact with a bunch.
So you had an impact on them then.
Yeah, and they've had an impact on me. Yeah, yes, absolutely, in the best way. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep.
So that's all we have for this week's Testimony Tuesday. I'm your host, Charles Gates Jr. with Jim Schoffstall. And we say God bless you, be blessed, and stay blessed in Jesus' name. Mm-hmm. Subscribe to my channel for updates on more videos. We post these Testimony Tuesday videos every Tuesday right here. And there's also a folder with all the videos of Testimony Tuesday in one of these corners. So
They're up there.
find it somewhere.